Doppler scan.
When Sam came along in mid-pregnancy for her routine scan, we found that the Doppler assessment of blood flow to the womb indicated the placenta hadn't formed as well as it should have done. So the placenta is struggling a little bit.
Often when the placenta fails, it's towards the end of pregnancy, like with Samantha. That means their baby can be delivered early, often by caesarean, without the need for intensive care. The problem is that most hospitals only use Doppler scans on high-risk women, because those are the national guidelines.
Baby's head down here.
Professor Thilaganathan and his team at St George's think that's wrong and give Dopplers to all first-time mothers as well, like Samantha, at an additional cost of just £15 per pregnancy.
One nostril here, this and nose and thing.
Is it possible that this baby could have been lost if it were being delivered in another hospital?
It's a difficult question to answer, but I think it is entirely possible that this baby could have been lost in another hospital.
So she was fortunate to be here, because not many hospitals do what you do.
No, that's true.
Well, that went well, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, really happy today. Baby's put on some weight and everything's stable, so
Good.
that's good.
I mean, you could actually be giving birth this time in 3 days, couldn't you?
Could be, but hopefully not. I'd like to go another week if possible. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
All right, brilliant.
Offering Doppler scans to all first-time mothers, as well as those at high risk, seems to have yielded a remarkable result.
Over the last 2 years, we've had about a 50% drop in stillbirths.
50%? A lot of trusts would love to have that figure, wouldn't they?
I think you're right. I think we'd love to have that.
But, just like with cot deaths, the decision-makers want more data, more evidence, something Professor Thilaganathan is prepared for.
It's difficult for me to prove that the sort of interventions we're doing on an ultrasound-based approach are the very reason for that drop in stillbirth. And I think we need to get on and do proper studies to ensure that that's really what's happening.
Aren't you being a bit modest, though? A lot of people would say this is down to you and your techniques.
I'd like to think that it is our intervention that has changed the stillbirth rate. However, one must be cautious. I need to be absolutely certain that it is my intervention that caused the reduction in stillbirths.
But others are confident there's enough evidence out there already on the life-saving use of Dopplers.
How are you? And you're the man responsible.
Professor Kypros Nikolaides works at King's College Hospital in London. Many regard him as the father of fetal medicine. Today, he's in the procedure room to operate on unborn twins. The mother's placenta is feeding too much blood to one, too little to the other. Doctors come from around the world to study his techniques.
Can you see? See, we're going down the tube that you already have inside. And you need to look at those blood vessels. Can you see those blood vessels? Okay.
He believes the UK's stillbirth rate could be reduced dramatically, almost overnight, if the medical establishment were willing. He favours a similar method to Professor Thilaganathan, a Doppler scan, but in his case, 3 of them, at 12, 22 and around 33 weeks.
But nothing will happen now. We have demonstrated through extensive research that you can identify more than 90% of those cases from the 12th week assessment.
Do you think you could avoid, therefore, more than 50% of the stillbirths in this country?
I think we can easily avoid them, and we can do so through very simple adjustment in the way we deliver antenatal care.
With the support of his hospital administrators, he offers care beyond the national guidelines, 3 Doppler scans to all pregnant women. But consultants who've tried to implement the same programme in other hospitals have met with resistance.
They had to stop because they were outside the guidelines.
People will be surprised that if there are individual consultants who believe they've got an improvement to the guidelines, they're sometimes pressurised not to implement it.
But that is the case.
The Department of Health told Panorama it's asked Professor Nicolaides to submit his research so it can be considered for wider use in the NHS.
The NHS is very, very good. Many countries are jealous of the care that we provide for the whole population. It is against this background that we are discussing the issues of stillbirths. But it is critical that we continue to improve the care that we provide to the patients.
Opportunities are being missed, aren't they, at the moment?
I think that we must speed things up.
The medical establishment is wary of speed, even when the intervention is low risk and non-surgical. Professor Gordon Smith is one of their champions. He supports change, but only when based on rigorous scientific testing.
So this is some of our storage facility for the samples we've collected. So we have overall.
In his fridges could be the answer everyone's looking for. He's studying samples from more than 4,000 placentas. It's already taken 6 years.
I think if we want to impact on the care of hundreds of thousands of women in the UK and potentially millions of women around the world, you have to have this level of activity, this seriousness, and to generate the highest quality of evidence. So this is the route we have taken.
His work is part of a £12 million government-funded research programme. But he's keeping an eye on the work at St George's and King's and suspects they might be onto something.
My personal hunch is that scans almost certainly will work. Doppler scans will work well, better than just growth scans, and that combining growth, Doppler and blood tests will be able to identify high-risk babies. But we don't change the care of 800,000 women based on a hunch. We have to provide the evidence that what we're wanting to do is safe, effective and cost-effective.
If you were to get that strong evidence, how significant do you think it would be globally?
Could be very significant. There are 800,000 women giving birth in the UK each year. There's 4 million women in the United States. There's millions of women around Europe. The NHS isn't going to fund a large-scale intervention that hasn't clearly been shown to be safe and effective.
Samantha, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is fantastic.
Samantha's fortunate. Her hospital in London provided a Doppler scan when they were not required to, and baby Letty was delivered 5 weeks early by caesarean.
Is she doing a lot of crying?
No, she's a good girl. She only cries when she wants feeding, so we're very lucky.
I'm still holding these. These are for you.
Thank you.
And you've waited a long time for this, haven't you? There was probably a time when you thought it might not even happen.
Yeah, it did feel like that. It did feel like a long, long way, but it's all worked out well for the end, so we're very happy, very pleased.
Oh, you better take her off and feed her, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely. No, yeah, she'll start squawking in a minute, I think, so let her go.
All right.
Yeah, better go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheerio. Bye, Letty.
If Samantha can benefit from such a low-cost intervention, which has the endorsement of some of our leading practitioners, isn't it time to make the change for everyone?
Every single hospital in England has the experts, the expertise and the machinery to offer a much higher standard of care for the pregnant women of this country.
But this year, just like every other year, many hundreds of babies will die in the UK when potential solutions are out there.
I think it's stunning, the similarity between what happened to me 20-odd years ago. We seem to be on the brink with stillbirths of having found a solution, of being able to save many, many thousands of lives. I think the fact that we as a society don't see it as important losing a baby. It's almost as if it's one of those natural tragedies that you have to accept. Why accept it?
The Department of Health declined to take part in our programme, but told Panorama the NHS is a safe place to give birth, with women reporting high levels of trust and confidence in staff. They added they've reversed the historic decline in midwife numbers, with a record number of over 6,000 in training.
For details of organisations which offer advice and support, go online to bbc.co.uk/actionline or call the BBC Action Line to hear recorded information on 08